Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to the first, and hopefully not the last, fantasy first aid. My name is Charlie. I am a non-binary sci-fi fantasy writer who's been writing fantasy for way too long. And see, depending on where you want to count for this, like professionally, I've been doing fantasy writing since 2005. But if we're being honest, I was like 10 when I started writing my first fantasy project, so that would have been 35 years ago. Oh. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. I feel like my camera is being really slow today, and I don't know what's going on with that. I apologize if it's a little... I feel like I'm ghosting. Yeah, I'm ghosting, at least on my side. I don't know why that is happening. It's been off and on. But hopefully everything will be fine with this. So I'm going to give you a little taste of what we're going to be doing for the stream, and then I'm going to bring in my wonderful co-hosts. So the whole point of Fantasy First Aid is we are here to help you with your fantasy project and to help make it the best that it can be. So if you have any world building questions, if you have any problems with your world building, with your fantasy story, with understanding just the genre in general, this is the place where we will go into that. We will dig down deep and we will cover all of that in as much detail as y'all want. But I do know that Nano is going on. So I am going to be doing sprints for this stream and for the ones during Nano, during Worldember, and through the camps. That way we can still get some work done. And who knows, if y'all like it, we may still do sprints during the other ones too. It's a new format. I'm curious to see what you want from it. Alrighty, I think that's enough in intro. Let's see who all we have with us today. We have the wonderful Cat Leo. We have the amazing Laura, who, by the way, did you know she made Christmas cards? Did you know?
Yeah.
Did you know? She made Christmas cards. They're amazing. Each one has a picture on top, and let me cover the personal stuff, but also has a story on the inside that is the story of what's going on the front of the card. They're amazing.
They are holiday food horror.
They're so good. They're so good. You should definitely check those out. And the wonderful Glory.
Hi.
From Glory Writes the Blues and the Awkward Sibling Hour and Writer Recharge. And Awkward Siblings Go to the Movies?
Creative Recharge.
Creative Recharge.
Writer Roundup. Writer Roundtable.
You have so many shows.
Yeah, we do.
I'm trying to keep them all
I think we have
clear in my head.
Yeah, 4, or that's the goal eventually, to have 4 shows that we can rotate.
So I am really excited.
And Coffee Bunny Cafe.
And the Coffee Bunny Cafe.
And Coffee Bunny Cafe. And then on Wednesdays on Twitch, we get ready for the Monday show. So we show our process of how we figure out the subject matter and what we're going to talk about, but also how we set up the YouTube titles and show descriptions and everything.
And Saturday, you chat opera.
Yes, one Saturday a month we do opera chat, where I work on a chamber opera with my longtime friend and composer, Everett Minchu. And it's about mental health struggles. So yes, there will be a therapist in the chamber opera as a character.
Nice.
Because we wanted to normalize that. And apparently there's never been a opera composed about mental health struggles. So this will be a first.
There should be. So
I think so. I agree.
Let's take a quick gander as to who all is in the chat. I see Chandra Arthur in here with the woot woot. By the way, this is all Chandra's fault. This entire stream is Chandra's fault, because after her stream the other day, she was just like, hey, Charlie, why aren't you doing this thing? And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, you could call it Fantasy First Aid. And I'm like,
but such a good title.
It's such a good name. How can I not do it now? She's like, right? And orange. Like, all I could say back was just orange. And it's all better now. And here we are. So, yay. Hello, Bonnie. Hi. Welcome to the Lurk Mode. Hello, Seaman. How are you doing today? I see Glory doing the double duty. Hello, Carrie. How are you doing? Hi. Hello, Devin.
Hello.
Our glorious Tugwaddle. I see Kat doing double duty. There's Megan. Hello, hello. Mr. P. Hello. Thank you. I'm glad you like the intro. That intro uses my song Gray off of my new album Pride, which I'm very proud to say is now linked from my main channel. I have all the playlists for all of my music on my main YouTube channel page now because I don't know. I remembered that I could do that.
Good stuff.
So if you want to check out any of my other music or that song in its entirety, you can just click over to the channel page and they're all right there. There's Laura doing the double duty in the chat.
You become a ghost yourself, or a ghost specifically.
Hello, Nikki. How are you doing? I hope all is well with you. Hello, James. How are you doing today? Hello, Diana, with that cute little Alexander face there. You just want to pinch them doggy cheeks. Just boop that nose. Just boop it.
Oh, Roy had his nose booped many a time today.
I'm glad you got the booping in.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the belated happy birthdays. It was a wonderful, wonderful day. Amongst the many things that arrived, my sister got me this gorgeous little dragon egg, which is just astounding. Like, there are times when I don't like cameras because it doesn't do justice, but so pretty. And I wanted to bring it back here, but I didn't want to break my wrists or my laptop trying to hold it up to show it to y'all. The hubby got me the leather-bound collected Sandman Volume 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I mean, we met because of Sandman, so it has that sentimental thing on top of it.
Yeah.
Not to mention one of my favorite comic series of all time. But it weighs, I think, 3,000 pounds. Like, you kind of almost need a crane to carry it around with you.
It's over there on the shelf.
It's so heavy. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And
it's because it's got glossy sheets, right? It's glossy pages.
Page.
That aqueous finish is so heavy.
Every page. And it's
you can defend yourself with it. Like,
it's the first 37 issues of Sandman in one collection. So it's like also like this thick. Like I have a family table Bible that has been passed down the generations back there that weighs probably a fifth, if not less, than this copy of Sandman.
Bibles are surprisingly light, though. They're how big they are. They're so light. It's the paper.
Awesome!
Very
I know
cool.
people have been playing Pride places because I get my Shazam reports from Apple Music for artists, and the fact that like complete strangers, and I'm pretty sure they're complete strangers because I don't think I know anybody who's currently in China, are doing the whole "Hey phone, who is this?" and pulling stuff up. That makes me really, really happy. It's just all excitement. Oh, and today's your aunt's birthday. That's awesome. And your cousin's. That's
very nice.
Awesome. I'm not saying that I'm biased, but
November
with the
baby.
exception of one person who knows what she did, so many of the best people were born in November. Except for that one person who knows what she did. Stop trying to reach out to me on Facebook. It's not going to happen. I know you've been stalking me again. So you may be hearing the sound of my voice. I don't want to talk to you. I still have PTSD. Go away. Anyway.
I was born in May. We're not talking about me.
I'm a May baby too.
Aww.
Hello, Spence. How are you doing? And hello, Stephanie. Alrighty. So I am in prep for Worldember, which starts next month.
Okay.
Because... So if you don't know, Worldember is one of the two main events that World Anvil sponsors. The first is World Building Summer Camp, which is in July, where they give you too many prompts way too slowly. So you get 10 prompts every week and then 3 on the last day. And your first set of badges are determined by how many prompts you get finished. So 33 prompts, 30 day. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's fun. It's tricksy, but that's in July. Worldember is a little bit easier. It's just 10,000 words of world building in 1 month. It's like mini nano, but for world building. And that may sound like it's a lot easier because it's 1/5 of a nano, but it's actually a little bit harder because that's a lot of articles. That's a lot of articles. When you realize that most articles that you will write for your world building are going to be between 200 and 500 words, suddenly 10,000 words is a lot of articles. So you need to be getting yourself prepped for that. And that's what I'm going to be doing during this sprint and during this stream. because I made a promise to myself, and I have a book ready for publication. Technically, if you're over there on Kindle Vella, which I know none of you are because I see the reader stats for myself and others who are kindly sending them to me. Yeah, nobody's over there, but it is up over there. So you can go and read the Shadow Phoenix Saga, Book 0 Raid, in its entirety over on Kindle Vella right now. But I told myself that it was going to come out as a print book when the tabletop role-playing game came out. And then I didn't work on the tabletop role-playing game nearly as much as I should have. So it is not ready. So that's what I am working on. And that's what I am going to be doing. And hopefully it will get... My goal is to have it done by the end of December. Mm-hmm. And that's all the fingers crossed on that one. So thank you for that, Glory.
And yeah, CB's right. Kindle Vella is for the US.
Yeah. Yep. And it's they're only just starting to promote it.
Yeah.
So
and not much.
Stuff has been out for a long time. I have found it extremely difficult to get people to understand what it is, because they get to the page and they're like, oh, so it's free. And then it's like, here, you got to pay for the next chapter. And they're like, but what? And they need to explain it better. It should not be on us authors to have to explain it to everyone, though I've been doing that. You can actually see the channel. I have a lot of my experiences with Kindle Vella on the channel, including the really
they don't even have a Vella app for the Kindle Fire tablets.
Yep.
So that is a part of it, as well as I have learned the hard way that so many of my potential readers are definitely outside the US, that I am not big inside the US, but outside the US, people are very much into what I write. And that is a problem, because Vella is essentially antithesis to where my readers are and where my interested readers,
do you get to be cliche like I am and say I'm bigger in France? Because I am. I most of my readership, viewership, and podcasting audience is in France, which I do not understand. But that's...
Well, and Tom's been crunching numbers. He's like, you would be so big in Europe is the problem. And all your readers are in Europe, and Vella is not available there. So, SOL.
Well, see, I think the reason it's taken so long for the rollout is, if the rumors are true, they're trying to buy Royal Road right now.
Okay.
And that would get them the European audience and some of the Asian market in one fell swoop. It would suddenly...
Because we were thinking about going over to Royal Road.
So if I understand, if the rumors are true, that looks to be what they're doing, because, well, Amazon always acquires to grow.
Yes, that is the way. I mean, you are watching the Foundation series right now. It is case in point.
I have to say, we just did a full day rewatch of season 1, and I have never been happier with a TV show in my life than the way that this one has turned out so far. The cast is so good, and I actually have something that I never had while reading the book, and this is where world building, I think, is really important. And so, oddly, it's not better, it's just better exposed on the TV show, because all the world building is clearly the world building from Asimov's book, if you've read the book. But because of the way they're putting it forward, I have so many theories as to exactly how certain events have taken place. I have a really fun one about Emperor Cleon the 13th that I may actually have to make a video on, because I have feels about an event that I don't want to spoil for anybody who hasn't seen the series or read the book yet. I never theorized based on the book. I never had that moment reading the book where I was like, but what did that happen because of this? Because when you're reading it, Asimov is very, I'm going to tell you why this is happening before it happens, so that you understand why it is happening, so that when it happens, you will understand that it has happened and had to happen the way that I'm telling you that it's going to happen. So let me explain to you all of the reasons that led to this one moment in time. Not a bad decision, works for the book, but it limits that ability for your own imagination to jump off the page and start working things out for yourself, because he very much hands it to you. Just like, no, here's why. Here's everything. Because of the way they personalized the story of the council from the book into the 3 Cleons, well, the 4 Cleons that we meet in the story, I have so many thoughts about each of the individual Cleons and how they actually interact with the world that my brain has gone into full theory mode. And that has taught me a lot about my own world building and how I want to deliver my story, and to make sure that it is delivered through character and through setting and not through exposition. Because the exposition it's beautiful if you're a fan of Asimov's writing style. It's beautiful. It's wonderfully well scripted prose. But it's just that. It's a beautiful, well scripted prose. Getting this experience through character the way I am, I have so many feels about how I want to do things going forward. That is true. That is true. Alrighty. So I do not see any. There it is. There it is. Yes, Megan. Cat's earrings are astounding. They're just wonderful. So I think. Yeah.
I have my plot bunny. It was a dust bunny. It's become a plot bunny.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to decide. It's taking place in 1931.
Okay.
In an island in Lake Ontario on the Canada side. And I'm trying to decide how much real history to incorporate into this and how much to just make up. Because we've got the Great War, we've got the Halifax explosion going on, and all this stuff, and the Spanish flu epidemic. And I'm just trying to figure out, so this is a boarding school for training spiritual mediums during the height of the spiritualist influx that happened during then.
Oh, spiritualism was a thing.
So, I have an idea that the people who founded this school were basically, where'd it go? They were disciples of Margaret and Kate Fox and then, so the people that were the first spiritual mediums that would communicate in New York through the Knox. So that's the thing that exploded spiritualism into place. Yep. So I'm making up people that knew them and came up to Canada and founded this school. And it's how much do I pull from reality and how much do I just make up? Because I don't want to offend actual people who are descendants.
Okay, so I can't remember who said this because I have been reading craft books forever. I was trying to think of which craft book it's even in back there. But one of the first craft books I ever read, when it talked about coming up with the idea for your story, used this acronym M.I.C.E. That M.I.C.E, you have to get your M.I.C.E in order or the story won't connect to a reader. And M.I.C.E stood for Milieu, Idea, Characters, and Events. And I think that this is really. What
did it stand for again?
It's M.I.C.E. M.I.C.E is Milieu, Idea, Character, and Event.
Thanks.
And that these are the 4 tracks that every story has to run on. It's just one will probably be primary. So, for example, Foundation, which I was talking about before, is an idea story. The idea takes over everything, and there really aren't, the characters are subservient to the idea. We only get to learn their names, even if their names are important enough for you to understand the idea that he's arguing for. As much as I don't like talking about Robert Galbraith's work, because of reasons,
Mood.
Harry Potter is a depending on the book, bounces back and forth between a character and a event story. So the first, I would say, 3 books are very definitely event books where the plot dictates everything. You could, in a lot of ways, switch out the characters and the plot would not change, because the events, the plot is laid down in stone and is kind of on rails, right? Quirrell is going to try to steal the stone no matter what. It doesn't matter who's at the school. It doesn't matter who's trying to stop him. All of that is kind of interchangeable in a lot of ways for the actual bones of that story to take place, right? So that is an event story where it's just barreling down the road. Most apocalyptic stories, monster stories, and the like are event stories. The character ones, I would say more Goblet of Fire, which is him having to deal with his emotions because he's starting to actually have them, because she decided to write him as a character in that book. Don't at me, but read the series many times. That's where she went, oh, maybe you should be a full-fledged character. And starts dealing more with his emotions, starts dealing more with the character relationships and whatnot, and character kind of rises up and becomes a bit more primary from that point on in the series. Most modern fiction is character-based. Very little fiction is the first one, and that's Milieu-based. So the Milieu-based stories, I think very heavily of books that no one has read, and that's why they're not that popular.
Okay, what is Milieu?
Milieu is all the little things.
Yes.
So slice of life fiction. If you're writing slice of life fiction, you are either writing a character story, because your interest is in that character, or you're writing a milieu story where it's all about the little things in their life, which is the focus, right? But you need to have all 4 tracks. And the reason I'm going through all this, I do have a point here. The reason I'm going through all this is when you're doing your world building, you need to start dividing it up and going, what needs to be there for just general background radiation, right? What is that milieu? Because this is where a lot of fantasy worlds fall apart, because nothing is going on but taking the ring to Mount Doom. And that's because, again, they didn't read the books or even watch the movies, because in the movies you can see the kingdoms are divided amongst themselves. There's more going on, even in the films, than that. But a lot of
beacons are finally lit.
Like a lot of stories reduce it down to just that one single track, right? Where we're very plot based, right? It's all the events. Evil ring has to be destroyed. Dark Lord can't win. You know. But if you don't have that milieu there, all those little things, like my favorite scene in all 3 Lord of the Rings books, which is not in the movie, and it makes me sad that it's not in the movie, is when Gimli asks Galadriel for a lock of her hair. And it's because she's literally giving them whatever they want, right? She gives Frodo like a magic light in a bottle that is a preserved star that he can unleash wherever he wants. Like, she's literally like giving them their heart's desire. And he's just like, I need to be able to remember, with all the bad things that we're going through, that anything as beautiful as you and what I have seen here exists. May I please just have a lock of your hair?
I think they did release that scene, or part of that scene, in the
extended.
Yeah, there is one where Gimli is talking about, once they're on the river, of, well, what did you ask for? And then he talks about that.
And
so
okay, so James is saying that it's in the extended. I'm not as familiar with the extended.
Oh, I only watched the extended.
Yeah, because it's just so relaxing. And yes, I do fall asleep, and that's how I sleep.
But that moment of milieu tells you so much about the character, right? Because you understand what this means, right? For an elf to give part of themselves to a dwarf, right? For a dwarf to find an elf attractive and beautiful, and to have anything nice to say about anything that the elvish have. This is not just ooh, you pretty woman, me want hair, right? There's so much meaning built into that. And that's that milieu that we're talking about, that soup that the story takes place in. So the trick is figuring out what that background radiation is that's going on. So if your story is taking place during the Spanish flu, it needs to come up, or people are going to be like, what?
Yeah. So
like, how isolated was this island? Right?
Not very. It's just a ferry ride from Bath. So, which is within driving distance from Toronto. No.
But you need to have some of that background stuff there. But your primary world building.
When I think of Milieu, I think of the song from the Disney cartoon Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
There goes the baker with his tray.
Yes.
That is what I think of. Is that in almost pretty much that entire song? So you hear a lot of background characters in it. I need 6 eggs. That's too expensive. Right? But that is like sort of my mnemonic, even though it's not technically, I guess, really a real proper mnemonic, but of what is Milieu. Of it is like that background, busy people in Busy Town.
It makes you feel like the world
childhood of Richard Scarry and Busy Town, to bring up another background on. But like Richard Scarry was really good at that milieu, in drawing form, and then the cartoon as well. Of it should be this sort of the background busyness or the activity that people just are going on with their lives, even if we're just talking about woodland creatures and insects in the 100-acre forest. They're still going on with their little lives, and
those aren't insects. Those are heffalumps.
I mean, heffalumps as well, but there are insects there.
And
who's making the honey, Laura? Who's making the honey?
That's right. There are bees. Okay.
There's bees. Okay, I'm just saying.
Okay.
And going back
important because Pooh would be so sad
without the honey. And going back to Lord of the Rings, like this is like a lot of the humor actually comes out of the milieu of that story, right? The hobbits wondering why they're not having second breakfast and 11 seas and first lunch and second lunch, and like that's all world building. But that's all world building for the milieu. That's world building for the setting. It makes them feel
their background lives,
right,
through the little things we say. So again, it's that the small hours.
Yep.
When they talk about the small hours or the little hours, when so you have big moments in every day and every month. There are these big highlights, right? But the small hours are the things that nobody pays attention to, like the meal you always have. You always have this, and how do you like it? It's like, for the last several months, I like a cup of coffee or chai and a bagel. It's a small hours kind of thing, but it does give sort of a peek into what I consider a meal, what I consider a quiet repast. It says a lot about my character without saying anything big.
What are the holidays and how are they celebrated? What are the local holidays that are celebrated? Like, we have a festival for
is there some people who
around here for reasons I don't understand.
Are there some people who don't celebrate those holidays, and how are they treated?
Yep.
Also, back on the food thing, real quick. Like some people specifically always have like this set meal on this specific day because that's their family dinner, and like so Sunday's family dinner night, and they always have one of these like 5 things, and then you learn that like one of those 5, like there's 5 members of that family, and like that's this person's favorite food, this is another, and another, and another, and another, and they just rotate through everyone's favorite food, and it tells you so much about that family.
And Sunday night was family movie night, and we would usually watch a Roald Dahl movie, Matilda or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or.
And this is where, especially when you're doing your world building, doing mind maps are really helpful, because you put, if you're someone like me, you put all 4 of those around, and remember for each of the characters where they're connecting in. Because again, if it doesn't show up in your story, it is fun plot world building that you can do, but no one will ever know unless you are doing something like I am and putting the whole world on World Anvil. So that's how you keep yourself from going into extraneous detail, right? If the Spanish flu is happening, so if you know these historical events, right? Mm-hmm. So the Spanish flu is happening, the Great War is happening, all of these things, right?
The Halifax explosion.
Sure.
If nobody has any connection with Halifax, if they don't read the local paper, is that going to impact the story? If you can't connect that over to an event or into a character or to an idea that's present in your story, then it's world building you don't have to take the time to do. Okay. This is how you fight off the dreaded world builder's disease.
But it's so much fun.
Oh, it is. And I love to give into it.
It's delicious crap.
This is how you keep yourself on track, is if you can't find a place where, why would this be mentioned in my story?
Because
Maybe.
somebody died in the explosion and they want to contact the dead through my main character.
And now you have a reason to include it in your
Mhm.
story. But especially if you're just world building for story purposes, you have to make sure that all of your effort is going into world building that will appear in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, again, like I said, someone like me, I can be a little bit freer with my world building because I'm not only putting it up on a site like Worldember for everyone to read, I'm also making a tabletop role-playing game so that extraneous information may not be extraneous for a game somebody decides to run in this setting.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be a bit more open in the world building that I'm doing. And again, if I can't see how it would lead to a game, I shouldn't waste my time and energy on it. Because again, that's just world builder's disease, and it is a fun one to have, but it takes you to some places. Does that help you kind of figure out how to make those decisions?
So that's the Milieu. What's the idea of the character event?
Okay, so the idea and theme are cousins. If your story does not have an idea, it will have a theme. If it doesn't have a theme, it will have an idea. It can have both. So, for example, Foundation, since I've been talking about it, is an idea as hero story. Meaning, the whole idea is, are people so predictable that you could design a mathematical model that would predict human history for thousands of years in the future that is accurate? That is what the story is about. All of the plot tension in that story is actually about, is this where the model gets proven wrong or right? It has, there are characters who can live or die, and the TV show's doing a really good job of making that feel important. The book doesn't care. Like, if Hardin dies, well, that just shows that there was a flaw in the mathematical model that needs to be fixed by the next generation at the Foundation so that everything goes on well. Because that's all the book is interested in, because it's the idea that's guiding the story. So when you're, depending on the type of setting that you're doing and the type of world, you'll probably end up having individual themes instead of ideas. Again, they're kind of interchangeable there. Is this a love conquers all story? Is this, the power of friendship kind of a story? Something like that. Those seem to be some of the most popular ones lately. And I wonder why, with the world and the state that it's in.
I don't know what you're referring to.
But that's what you're dealing with the idea. Is your story about a thing? Like, if your story idea could be that, say you're, and this is where a lot of Christian fiction seems odd to people that don't understand what it is. That's ideas hero fiction. That's not whatever genre you think it is. The idea is, my particular brand of this religion is right, and the story is in service of that. So if it's a Christian romance, then of course anything that violates the ethics that that particular branch of the religion has set up for itself will result in suffering for the characters, because it's not the romance that's actually the main point of the story. It's one of the side elements. I'm trying to think of a popular idea. Is hero stories have not been popular for a while, and in a way,
Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas Shrugged is just an idea as hero story. There's a 45-page monologue in that book, which is how I know when people haven't read it, because there's literally a 45-page monologue in that book. One character talks uninterrupted for 45 pages.
That's worse than the Council of Elrond.
Yeah. And every time I bring that up, you can always tell the people who have claimed to have read the book that haven't read the book, because they're like, wait, no. Oh, no. If you've read the book, you can't miss that, because that's
You
the
do
point
not
of the
miss
book.
a 45-page monologue. Unless you were just like, Okay, there. It's done.
It's like
I'm
when
just
people
gonna skip
claim to
it.
read Moby Dick and don't realize that it starts with like 100 pages of here's how to be a whaler, here's how to tie knots. Because the book actually starts with like 100 pages teaching you how to be a sailor and how to catch whales, and then the story starts.
Maybe that's why I haven't actually started reading it.
And again, you can always tell who's read the book and who hasn't because idea.
I own it. It looks pretty on my shelf. Doesn't mean I'm gonna read it.
Right. Les Mis, I think you could very clearly, well, almost anything by Alexander Dumas is an ideas hero story because he really was a champion of a lot of ideas. Les Mis is him arguing how we should treat the poor and how justice is not just in France. And that's what every element of the story is in service of that and why it works out the way it is. And really everything by Alexander Dumas. If you want to get into that, we can in some future something, but that's a rabbit hole. He had ideas, y'all. He had ideas. But more than likely, you're just going to have a theme. So if it doesn't tie into your theme, it should be removed. This is the problem with, and I'm going to say it, Robert Galbraith's seventh book in the Harry Potter series, where suddenly, oh no, magic can't just make food appear, even though it's done it throughout the entire series up to this point. But for plot reasons, we can't have it do that anymore. Well, that's weird because one of the themes of that story is how togetherness and friendship can literally make anything happen. Like that's literally the themes of those books, which means if that is the case, then Hermione should have found a way to waza food, because friendship is literally magic in those stories. And that should have been the resolution of that thematically. And it actually challenges the themes of the stories because the world building conflicts with one of the themes there. If that makes sense. So making sure it fits in with your theme or your idea is important. Character, fairly, self-evident. If none of your characters are going to be sailors, you don't have to develop a strong understanding of how sailing works in your setting or what the fishing industry is like.
Well, in storytelling, a lot of it is you only need to mention what is different.
Mm-hmm.
You do not need to mention what is normal or what is part of our shared reality already. To like, if they're eating an apple, you don't have to describe the apple in detail unless the apple is somehow deviating from what we know as an apple.
Yeah.
If the apple is red and juicy and tastes like an apple, why are you describing it? It's already the apple that we have in this world. But if this apple is somehow different, if in fact it doesn't taste like apples here, if it tastes more like plums and peaches had a baby, and it's, square shaped naturally, then you describe the difference, not the similarity. So you just if sailing is normal, it's the same in our world as it is in your world that you're describing, you don't need to really describe much unless there's deviations from what we already know about sailing. If they don't sail in a boat, I don't know, they sail on a sod of dirt, then you would describe that. But otherwise, you could just simply say a small boat or a small little skiff. And you wouldn't need to describe it in detail. But if they're sailing on a bunch of dirt, on a raft of dirt, I want to hear descriptive text. Tell me all about this and how this works without dirt falling apart into the water.
It's held together by the vampire within the dirt.
There we go. Yes, it absolutely checks out.
Beautiful.
But I mean, why not? Because that's what readers or viewers or whoever is, the intended audience, that's all they need to know. They need to know how it's different from the shared reality we already live in.
But how do you cater that to a historical fiction where not all education is the same and people don't know?
Okay, so this is where my bias is going to come in here, as much as you want to. Historical fiction is as big a lie as any kind of fiction is, and all historical fiction, as I believe Glory said in a recent one of her talks, is fantasy fiction. It's straight up fantasy. If you want all of your characters to talk and walk and be like modern people, but it's the 1500s, do it. Nobody will care except for that one person who's really into the 1500s who wanted an historically accurate story. It's your world. You can craft it however you want. Dickinson, which I go to a lot for this, it uses modern music as its soundtrack, and in-world soundtrack, by the way, where they're literally dancing to it at their
And
at
reciting
their
the
parties.
lyrics to each other. Some
Yeah,
of them quite
and stuff, right?
very modern lyrics.
The vocabulary is extremely modern. Like it's Mean Girls with Emily Dickinson, kind of, in the way
They
that the dialogue is
physically
written.
move in modern ways.
Yes.
You know, like they're crouching down and twerking, which is adorable and hilarious
Especially
in
those
garb.
big dresses. Those big
Yes,
dresses.
like when they're twerking in these things, and the hoop skirt is like smacking in this one guy's ankles, and it looks like it was not comfortable, but he's trying to, you know, he's paid to be an actor, so he's like, oh, ow, 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 ow. I'm like dying, but in a wonderful way,
because consistency is what the audience cares about. If it's consistently that way, the audience will be like, okay, that's how we're doing this period of American history. Then it's because it really depends on your voice and how you want to bring your voice to the work, right? You don't question the only time you really question a book is when it breaks your suspension of disbelief, when it all of a sudden something happens and you're like, but that's not how things have been happening.
Yeah, the
Wait.
inconsistency is the problem.
Yeah. So if you want to study all of the regional slang for the time period and really get into that and have fun with that, go for it. I have books over there of slang from various time periods and locations because obsessive. But if that's not what you're wanting to do, then don't bother with it. And I know that's heretical to say, but I really feel this strongly because I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to say the word Bridgerton, sigh heavily, and say there are wonderful videos by Khadija Bo and others. I believe Glory did a whole thing on Bridgerton. There are ways you could have told that story without some of the choices that were made. But
just the gowns anyway. Like why no afternoon gowns? Hem links actually mattered back then, not just socially, but also because they were functional. Just as sleeve links mattered. You're not going to see a woman working in a kitchen with a long sleeve. You're going to see at most a 3/4 sleeve, but you can also see, just below the elbow sleeve. For utilitarian purposes, fabric is expensive, incredibly expensive, so you don't want to stain it or wear it out. And I'm just like, it's like we've just pretended that none of these people have any concept of utilitarian or functional existence. Okay, whatever.
Yep.
But it's
All
fantasy.
right.
Again, like just pointing out,
fantasy.
There is no such thing as a historically accurate historical fictional story. Period. Like it's not a thing. So do not hold yourself to some imaginary standard that is not in existence, okay? No matter what some trolls on the internet tell you, ignore them, don't feed them. Historical fiction is always written for a modern audience and therefore can never be historically accurate because people change and society changes and technology changes, and you need to write for your modern readers so they understand it, and not for how readers 100, 150, 275 years ago, whatever, what they would understand and what we understand now as readers are dramatically different. So do not worry about historical accuracy. Write for your modern readers to satisfy them and to entertain them.
That is awesome. And you're 100% right on that, because that gets lost, especially in a lot of historical romances. But So, how did everybody do? I am working on my timeline still, making sure that I have everything ironed out for that, and set my dependencies up right but wrong. And every time I changed the time on one thing, it changed the time on something that it didn't need to change the time on. And I just basically had an event crawling across my timeline because I kept trying to fix it, and it wasn't fixing it, and it's fixed now. And I spent most of that sprint trying to figure out why it was wrong. Why is this?
Why is it
Why,
leaving me?
why are you running away? You're an important part of the story. Why are you running away? Yeah. For anyone using Aeon Timeline 3, please be careful how you set up your dependencies. It can cause strange artifacts to occur. How did the rest of y'all do?
I watched some music videos on YouTube for an artist that I just discovered because he plays a character in Nancy Drew, and I didn't know he was like a singer because like I was looking up the characters, and then I like saw that like his like profile thing was like actor, singer, songwriter. I'm like, well, let's hear you because I want to know. I'm curious. And then I started working on the fanfic that I was researching that for. The music had no point to this, but it's good music.
That's okay. I found a power metal cover of Beat It over the weekend, and I can't stop listening to it.
Nice.
Because it is... Have you ever wondered what would have happened if Beat It had been originally written and recorded for like a Rocky movie? Like it should have been like that song in the background while he was getting ready for the fight with a montage going over it. Like if you've ever had this thought, boy, have I found the cover for you. It's Beat It by One Morning Left, and it is as power metal as power. They call themselves metalcore. They really, in their heart of hearts, believe they're a metalcore band. This is a power metal song if I've ever heard a power metal song ever. Like, the fact that when they go into the chorus, he drops into a demon growl and just starts like devil voicing the Beat It. Like, yes! Yes! Like, it's so over the top good. Highly recommend. And no, I did not have that going on in the background while I was trying to fix my timeline thing. No. Never. Not me.
I totally trust you on that.
Glory, how you doing?
I'm well. I reread everything I've written thus far for episode 5 of the Velo Project, and of course, then also had to edit it as I went because can we ever leave well enough alone? And but like good news, I still really like it.
Yay!
And I just don't know how to end it, the episode. So
I don't think the brownies know how to end it either.
yeah, that's the problem, okay? Because like there's a point, and I'm like, Tom needs to wake up and help me.
See, I have a similar problem every couple years when something changes in the Kindle format, and I have to go through and update all of my books. And while I have it open, I will see something and be like, I could write that sentence so much better now. And the urge to just do a full like rewrite of passages kicks in, and it's like, this book's been out for 15 years. Nobody cares anymore. Just move on. Just make sure it's still readable on the Kindle device and
like
go.
I saw places where a comma belongs. You know, can't not.
It's so hard sometimes. I will be doing a rewrite of one of my older books because I've got planned, it's on the to-do list schedule over there to finally write the sequel to it because I actually have it plotted out now. And I want them to be in the same writing voice because that book came out in 2007. I don't sound like the same writer anymore.
Right.
It needs some sprucing up so that it sounds okay.
Yeah, because I seem incapable of not editing for flow ever.
And poor Roy, just disagreeing with all of this.
In the background, we can see him.
He's just so cute.
He's like, play with me.
Okay,
I'm
I will
all
get to
alone here.
I'll get to Laura in just one moment, but Megan got 395 words, which is awesome, and snaps for that. CB with 172 words and some snaps for that. And one last thing before we get back to Laura. I gave up on Nano this year for one simple reason. My depression kicked in, and I am not responsible for being overly productive on an arbitrary time scale when I have mental health issues to deal with. I don't know exactly what else going on with you right now, but I feel like you, me, and two other people are often in sync with our lives. So you do not have to hold yourself to an arbitrary, unnecessary deadline
Dance.
when self-care is necessary. I'm just gonna
Dance
say
for me,
that.
my Muppet.
Dance. There you go. Who's
Like,
just scooting back? Like, is this good enough?
It's just a concept. Nano is just a concept. It's not. There's nothing hardcore about it. It's just an idea, and it's not meant to torment anyone. Like, it's not meant to be a work of demons. Okay. It's meant to inspire, to encourage, to offer boundaries. When
Most people
sometimes
failed the
boundaries are good.
original one.
Yep.
I read the book that like the people who founded Nano wrote, like the beginning, like they wrote it, and I was like, so basically everyone failed the first time.
Yes, of course.
And like they did it because they were like, we're never gonna do this if we don't do this, and holding like, and they met in coffee shops and stuff. So it's actually a group project. Is what Nano's supposed to be. It's like a group project.
Yep.
Of being together.
Yeah, so it's not meant to be like a work of misery.
No, it's not.
If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So just relax and, see what feels right this year. Enjoy the journey.
When I look at this wonderful sentence, which I have to say is constructed beautifully, like in all the ways that just makes me feel called out in so many ways,
Yeah.
I am drowning in "have you lost the plot" energy. Like, I know that wasn't like directed at me, but if you said it just right with a couple snaps after it while staring at me just right, I might you might see like a slash go across my face or chest. I mean, it just, I feel this. Depending on the type of story that you're doing, and I'm not sure which of your many, many projects that you're working on, this is where opportunities could lie. Because when I was writing The Chain, about halfway through writing it, I had that really strong sense of I've completely lost the plot. And that caused me to question, am I even doing the right plot? Which caused me to realize I was not. I picked something that should have been a subplot for the main plot.
Mm-hmm.
So that storyline actually continues and is finished out in the finished book. But I actually kind of went back and realized one of the other things that I was treating as a subplot was actually the main plot of that book. And that's where I had gotten lost. So I'm not saying that that's what's going on with you here, but there may be an opportunity in this. Because
my last year's Nano project, I was like, why is this all falling apart? I outlined the whole thing. And that is how I realized this plot sucks and I don't want to write it. And I need to change it from a love triangle to a polycule. And then it was super fun to write, and I didn't keep dropping the plot. I didn't lose it.
Can we get, have you lost the plot? This whole comment. Spence, can we get this on a shirt? And then can we also get what Glory said also on a shirt? I dropped the plot. I dropped the plot, but have it be like a pie or something. Or no, the chili from the Office scene where it's all over the floor, but it says plot. I dropped the plot.
As a friend of mine used to leave as a random voicemail every time they heard me complaining about a book that I was working on, they would just call me up, and I don't know, they would always know when I was busy. And so it would always be a voicemail just sitting there for me. When I'd go back to my phone and I'd pick it up and I'd click the voicemail and I would just hear her wonderful dulcet tones going, I fought the plot and the plot won. I fought the plot and the plot won. And like, just, and like, she kind of did a whole thing.
I
to
shot the
myself.
plot.
And it was just
But
like,
I did not shoot my subplot.
so, you know, sometimes you just have to give in. It's one for your mini cheesy vampire romances. See, where I also had a problem with this, and it was mainly because the mood that the story required, and again, going back to my wonderful, wonderful, sparkling mental health, I am not in the headspace to write something like that right now. Like, I am incapable of having those emotions personally, and thus incapable of explaining them to others or making other people have them in a story.
Yeah.
Ask yourself that, because honestly, this could be a moment of self-discovery for you, because it is such a cliche to talk about writers and our mental health issues, but, you know, if shoe fits, you know, you're going to the ball. But, you know, we do have them. And sometimes what we are referring to as writer's block, what we're referring to as a myriad of issues that we come up with, techniques and plans to work through that never seem to actually work us through those things, are actually problems with us. Like, I think it was it Anton Chekhov who said to work on your fiction, work on your life.
Mm.
I don't want to.
I
yeah.
have the personal opinion that nearly all writing any of us ever do is therapy. Even emails you send people, if you go back and look, that's therapy. You were going through stuff, and it comes through in the written word. All of it's therapy. So if that therapy's not working for you, try a different therapy.
Thank you. We try.
We do
But
try.
yeah, I would. My
Therapy
go-to.
we offer for the entertainment of others. Think about it, like that's a wild ride right there, but it is therapy.
When I'm having problems with the story, I have learned enough from my own writing process to actually interrogate the story second and do some internal work first and make sure I don't need to do something to fix myself. Because very often I have let myself get dehydrated because I'm terrible about that, which is why we always don't forget to hydrate. Because what is
Internet
drinking?
parent reminder.
Yeah.
Stretch, get up, walk around, hydrate yourself. You're important and you're amazing.
All things people like me need to hear.
So on the writer's block, I've mentioned this before, but Allie Carter in her book Dear Allie, because everybody was like, Allie, how do you write a book? She actually brings up like the 3 types of writer's block. And normally 2 of them are not the problem with the book.
Yep.
One of them is you either, one, just need to sit your ass down. One of them is literally just sit your ass in the damn chair. And write one word.
Mood.
There you go. And then one of them is honestly, maybe you are like, have overextended yourself. You need a break. You need to take care of yourself, like your mental health, your physical health. Eat something, hydrate. The one that is actually the book is like, maybe you're looking at the wrong part of the book and you've lost track of where you started.
Yeah.
So I really do like to bring up, because I actually really enjoyed that book, Dear Allie, because other writers also contributed stuff to it, which was really awesome. That it wasn't just her giving writing advice; she was also getting like advice from many, many authors, editors, and agents. Also inputted stuff into that book. She also has a thing in there where part of her writing process is crying. She's
Yes,
like,
very
once you get
helpful.
to this point, this is when I cry for like 2 days, and then I buck up and go back to my editing.
I schedule what I like to call my screaming day, and the hubby knows to completely avoid me that day because it's about 3/4 of the way through the book. So like the date kind of moves on the calendar, and like he's like, so when's screaming day? And that's the day where I'm at the point of like, why did I start this project? Why am I doing this? Why in the world would anybody care? This has been a waste of my life, my energy, my time, everything. And if anyone deigns to talk to me on this day, there will be screaming. If I turn on the radio and hear somebody say something that I even modestly disagree with, like, the weather's nice today. No, it isn't. It's a little too cloudy for my taste. Like,
It's still
every single
sunny.
thing. Yeah.
Charlie, how dare you come for me in my own home like this?
And I call this my screaming day. So,
Why? Why are you coming for me where I live? Why,
you're
honey?
very much the same person.
I know. I was just thinking about that yesterday, going, we really are. My God.
It's shocking in so many ways. But yeah, it's very important to know, and you will learn this over time as you write, what things that you have. Because I also have my, oh God, am I an emo now day? That's usually about a third of the way into the book, where it's just like, but why? Like, now, since I fell in love with my crazy ex-girlfriend, that's my sexy French depression day, because I just put on like Parisian cafe music and just like embrace the whole thing.
I literally have a black veil that I put on and like overly dramatically, melodramatically walk around the house. Like I'm so glad there's no cameras, there's no witnesses. I wait till Tom leaves the house to put on my veil and like just slowly walk around the house.
I'm not
It
saying
feels right. The neighbors don't say anything if I go outside in my veil. They're just like, creative people.
I'm not saying that I've
I
never
have made
stood
myself
out on my.
love.
I'm not saying that I've never stood out on my deck and sang all of the Dies Irae from Mozart's Requiem at the top of my lungs to get the darkness out on days like that.
God, yes.
But I
Neighbors
may
enjoyed
have
that.
Dies Irae. Like, yeah, just,
Yes. Yeah.
just you gotta let it flow. Just let it flow.
Yes.
And honestly, Nikki, this is one of the reasons I stream and stream so much, is because either I say it or the person I'm co-hosting with says it, and my big dummy brain hears it and goes, "Oh yeah, I should do that."
Have you done that?
Yes, I've actually been quite well hydrated today.
Yay, good job.
I've even had
Gold
2 meals.
star for everybody.
Oh, I've had one.
Look,
My other is on the way.
I am a former professional teacher. I have been certified able to give out gold stars. Okay, they're real gold stars when I give them out. I'm just saying. I did all the work and I paid for the license.
Can you give me one?
Yes, you got one as well. Gold star.
Thanks.
There you go. Now eat it.
I actually have on one of my hard drives, my teacher freshman year for the writing class that everyone is required to take. She gave gold stars when you turned in your final paper, it was 3 papers, one, like there were a bunch of different types of essays, and I still actually, that sticker is on my terabyte hard drive.
Yes.
That I got for college.
No, I mean, like, I know it's a little thing,
right
but
there.
it does feel so good, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like, you did this. You turned that in. You don't have a grade yet, but you turned that in.
You get a gold star for effort.
I truly believe on having little rewards set up for things like, I try not to let myself have a lot of the candies that I want, because that's like all I would eat. And so like when I'm doing a project, when I get to this point, I can have that fancy candy that I really, really like, or I can do this or that other thing to reward myself. And I find myself looking forward to it. It helps to motivate me to get there. And then it's that double pleasure of not only do I get to have that thing that I love, but I earned this. Like I did the thing that made it okay for me to have this.
We do love earning our rewards, don't we? Like it tastes better. It feels more righteous. It's just how we're wired.
Cherry, I have to say, this is one of the great feelings in writing when you actually find yourself. Yeah. Today I actually got a bit misty at my own writing. Yeah. Um, there are two scenes in two of my books that one is not published yet, and I'm currently looking for beta readers for because it needs a rewrite. But there's a scene in there that I wept when I wrote it, and I get misty every time I read it.
I've never felt any emotion when I read my own work, except for maybe I should change this word. You're using crutch words.
I literally got misty. I just reading episode 5 a minute ago. For the past sprint.
I wrote
yes.
in a fanfic that I did because I had become so attached to some of the characters in a show that I loved. And when I was writing this fanfic and I went back to read, I was like, I can't edit this. I tried writing it. I'm
Yeah.
So I just had to post it. Like I honestly in the author note had to put I couldn't read it.
See, that's going to be the hard thing with Crucify My Love, because I really want that book to come out into the world. I want all 3 of those in that series to come out into the world because I absolutely love them. But when I read back through them, I had to force myself to do rewrites on certain passages just because I made the mistake of falling in love with the book. It is truly one of my darlings, and I did not want to do any changes to it whatsoever. And it hurt my soul a little bit to have to do that. And now I know that I have to do even more because I changed something fundamental in the world building for the setting. So I don't think there's going to be it's going to be too massive of rewrites, but I know one character has to completely change for book 1. And probably a couple in the ones that follow. But I'm trying to do this the easy way of, since I have to rewrite this thing anyway, I need some vicious beta readers now to tell me everything that's wrong with it, so that as I'm having to bring it into line with the new world as it exists, I will gladly send it to you. It is dark. It is beautiful. It is inspired by a song by one of my favorite Japanese bands. It's actually a song by the same name. It was inspired by Crucify My Love by X. And in fact, I had to change the names of the characters because all of the characters were named after people in the band when I initially wrote it. And I went, I did not mean to do that. I did not realize I had done that until I was about halfway through. And I was like, no.
Find and replace. Find and replace. Yep. Find and replace.
As much as I would love for...
As long as one of them isn't Harry Styles.
I still give them Japanese names out of homage to their origin, but as much as I wanted Shinobu to be Yoshiki, it's no, that's not, no, we did not do this. We did not do this. It's also the first book I ever wrote that has an ace character in it.
Nice.
And
bye, Cherry Panda.
Have the fun.
Bye.
So, Laura, do you have any other questions? Is there anything else that we can do to help you with your world building?
Are there any guidelines for using real historical people?
Make sure that they're dead.
Yes, they are.
This can be very important if they are not. Hunt down and ask for permission. Make sure if this is a self-published book, that it includes the statement that all characters in this work are fictitious. Do not... Okay, so just so you understand, the reason that came into being is from a movie that was made based off of an autobiography that included a event around one man whose wife kind of had a relationship with Rasputin. And when the movie was made, he sued the people who made the movie and then found out it was based on a book and sued them for good measure, even though it was the autobiography of the guy who wrote the book, who was there for the events, and who, I believe in the book, actually changed their names, but they were similar enough from like their descriptions that it was like if you knew this group of like people that were hanging out with the Romanovs, you knew exactly who he was. And he almost bankrupted, I think it was MGM,
Wow.
because he won the lawsuit, which is why now, even if it is a based on true story, it always has the disclaimer in here: all people and events are fictitious.
So the real people would have been dead already, but they would be mentioned as like my fictitious disciples of these people
Because
founded this school.
if they have any level of fame or infamy, make sure that they do not have a litigious estate, which is very easy to look up. So, for example, if you were just to search Sir Arthur Conan Doyle lawsuit, you will see hundreds of them because his estate is extremely litigious and sues people left, right, and center. Even though Sherlock Holmes is in the public domain, they will sue you for using him. And they're using a quirk in British copyright law to get away with it, in that the character may be public domain, but they own the name, even though they didn't file for a trademark. It's a whole thing. They will sue. The same is true with the estate of Edgar Rice Burroughs, for example. His estate is extremely litigious. There are several estates, and it's really easy to find out because if you just search the person's name followed by the word lawsuit, things just start populating. Like, it's not hard to find out who these people are.
It's just talking about how they're the birth of spiritualism.
You should be fine. I'm just saying that's a good way to cover yourself, because if you do that quick Google search and you see that, oh wow, their estate has sued 12 people in the last year, maybe change their name and have a fictitious person be the person who started it, and not risk the lawsuit. You know what I'm saying?
Not all of the Sherlock Holmes books are public domain yet.
Correct.
They're able to do that.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. There have been a lot of people that have made the mistake, and it's very entertaining because they're vicious in their lawsuits. Because this came to my attention when they sued Paramount Pictures for Elementary My Dear Data, and they claimed that they had defamed and debased the estate by including his work in a scientific romance, which was a genre that he despised. And they won their lawsuit.
Okay.
They are very very litigious, and which is their right, but it's something to keep an eye on. Also, making sure that anything that you say, that make sure that you have basis for things that you say, especially if you are concerned about certain things. Like I say on the internet all the time that I am like 100% sure that Aleister Crowley was Jack the Ripper, and if I ever write that Jack the Ripper book that I want to write, he will be the one who did it at the end. And I honestly don't care if anybody comes after me, because I'll just take that as validation that I was right. But again, that is casting aspersions on someone. I don't know if you can say honor. I mean, he literally wrote a book about how heroin let him talk to God. So, I mean, I don't know if there's much character that can be assassinated there, but
yeah, I don't see any lawsuits.
Then you should be fine. Everything from that time period should be public domain as well, with very few and strange exceptions to that, and that is generally related to whether or not things have been trademarked in certain ways. It's and I bring that up specifically with, I think there is a trademark lawsuit ongoing with things like the Aquarian, the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ, which was a big engine behind a lot of the spiritualist movements.
How do you spell that?
It's Aquarian, as in like the age of Aquarius. So
Okay.
it is an interesting book. It was delivered by a medium who claimed that Jesus appeared to him to usher the world into the age of Aquarius. That we were leaving the Piscean age and entering the age of Aquarius. In fact, anytime you hear people talking about that, even if they don't know it, they're generally making reference to that book, because that is the book that brought that idea into the popular culture. It had kind of been floating around a little bit before that, but it was a very popular text. It was kind of A Course in Miracles of its time, where there were study groups throughout the world reading the book and getting really into it. I bet I know exactly what song it is and what musical it's from.
Mm-hmm. Or the Muppet version,
Oh, the Muppet version. Oh,
where
my
the hair
goodness.
just keeps growing. So they're all just piles of hair.
Wow. So good. So good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as far as things like that go, you should be fine. Um, I don't know Canadian law, but I
Why
will
not?
say you have to be, well, because I'm not Canadian yet. Well, I mean, technically, I guess maybe because my great grandfather
Since
was an
they
illegal
haven't
immigrant
given
from Canada. So,
Boot in the boot.
get a little toque in a boot.
but you also have to be careful, because if there are historic landmarks, some historic landmarks, there are laws regarding how they can be depicted
Okay.
that vary heavily by region. So there, for example, there are certain buildings in Germany that cannot be shown without paying royalties to the foundations that own them. And they have gone after people for mentioning them in books. And that's well within German law to do stuff like that. It is illegal to photograph the Eiffel Tower at night. And if you post your photos, there is a chance that they will go after you for them. Like, they don't actively arrest people on the street for taking pictures of the Eiffel Tower at night, but it is illegal to take pictures of the Eiffel Tower at night.
Any idea why?
Tourism, they control, that's the image that they control of the building and the one that they use in most of their marketing. So you have to license the official pictures from them if you're going to use them in print. It's a lot of these laws came into effect during the great, I love world history, the great magazine scare of the early 1900s, where what if they just come and take pictures of all of the art and nobody wants to actually see the art anymore? Because this is the era where you first start getting full color. They were generally hand painted lithographs and whatnot, sheets in magazines, but you were getting full color panels in them, and various countries put in laws about various landmarks and various galleries that you are not technically allowed to take pictures in without paying a fee. But most of that only gets triggered if you're selling a thing. Most prose writers should be fine. Like, don't worry about this too much. Most prose writers should be fine. I do know that there are some places that you're just not supposed to talk about. I actually
There's only one feature really on that island, and it's these really old stone walls that the Irish built when they immigrated over. So it's like just the solid stones that make those walls. They're the dry stone walls. They're really cool. But
So
I didn't see anything about it in the cultural center's website. So
oh yeah, they're generally fairly upfront about it, because they will then have and you can apply here for your license to give us the monies.
Mm-hmm.
There have been several spy thriller novelists who have had visits from men in black coats
Oh yeah.
because
There's
they
a couple stories that I have been working on since the early 2000s that my now ex spouse made very clear of. I'm going to have to get clearance, which is actually the reason I haven't finished these stories, because it's like, I don't want to go in front of the Pentagon board, even though I was assured by unofficial Pentagon folks that they very much enjoyed what I had written thus far. Turned out what I dreamed was a little too close to actual military technology and intelligence. Oopsies.
I'm glad I could help you. Well, people don't realize what you can actually deduce from good research also. So just if you're doing something that takes place in the real world involving the military, you might get a visit. Alrighty, how did everybody do? Really, Roy?
Just going crazy right now.
Tell me more, tell me more. Did he put up a fight?
I listened to
That song has lyrics.
so I blame you, Charlie.
It does definitely have some lyrics.
Yeah.
All right.
Now imagine 6-year-old me dancing around to those entire movies and singing those words at the top of my lungs. They let me watch those movies and sing those songs.
As a fan of the of Grease, I just have to say, compared to the stage version of it, the movie is quite clean. The stage version has it goes a bit more risque in some places. So I added some more scenes to my timeline. I really like being able to do this and see how everything is working out. It, especially because the book that I'm adding it all in for was pantsed, and seeing that, hey, I actually did cover all my bases. I mean, I'm sure somebody between the editor and the beta readers would have pointed that out to me if I had not. But it's nice getting this kind of very detailed confirmation that I dotted all my I's and crossed all my T's. The story makes sense. How did the rest of y'all do?
Just those 2 covers of Beat It, and I turned the oven on to cook a pizza.
If you're looking for covers of Beat It, there's a version by a French rock band called Zorg, which is Zorg, which is kind of your like emo sad song. It's the just leave me alone version of Beat It, which I rather enjoy because it's nothing but like the dulcet tones of an acoustic guitar and this really sad Frenchman singing the song at maybe half tempo. It's rather beautiful and oddly touching, and I highly recommend.
I'm very curious to see a Catholic high school perform Grease.
I'm using my imagination, and it's only more fetishized. It's just,
See, the problem
little
is
skirts all the way.
So, Gloria, what were you up to during all that?
I put away dishes. I checked to make sure Tom was still alive. He is. He's fine. Yes. I then, honestly, I researched bread recipes because I want to make some bread in my bread machine. So, and that was my sprint, y'all. I mean, like, it depends on how you want to look at it.
That sounds perfectly fine to me.
Every Christmas, we would have to go out hunting for sheep herder's bread.
Okay.
I think it's like challah bread. Is what it's like.
It's similar to challah.
Yeah, and we would use it to make creme brulee French toast. So
Yes.
you make your caramel sauce, and you put your bread in it, and you let it, and you pour all your sweet condensed milk over it, and you let it sit in the fridge overnight so it soaks up all the goodness. And then you take it out when you run down for Christmas in the morning, and you stick it in the oven. And then when you take it out, you flip it upside down, and it all just runs. And you eat it with peaches and whipped cream.
And insulin.
Only
I
if you're a
just-
grandma.
It does sound delicious.
It does sound amazing.
Good. Christmas tradition.
Yeah, I mean, like, we make challah all the time. I was looking for something else. Because,
And yes, I am at 333 subscribers on the YouTubes, which feels both amazing because I never thought I would have one. Like, you know, my origin story on YouTube, I've said it too much. If not, check my previous work. I've said
I
it
got
all.
a new subscriber today.
yay!
I hope y'all enjoyed this. Going on in future, there will be I will be doing this on Tuesdays for the foreseeable future. I will also be much more open about topics. I just wanted to try it out and see if this was a thing that I wanted to do. I don't usually stream on Tuesdays. So I had a feeling like I might do this and be like, I'm never doing that again. That was a nice experiment. So this was really, when I say this was a pilot in every possible way. I think we talked a lot about good
This is
things.
the aired,
about
unaired
world building.
pilot.
Like, I think we did a lot of good talk about world building. We will have specific topics going forward. I have created a tell me what to talk about channel over on my Discord, which should be linked below if you're not already a member, where you can put in suggestions for topics that we can do some deep dives in here for. I will say that if you need really like in-depth world building help, below you'll find a link to my podcast Myth Weaving, where I did 2 entire seasons. I think there's like 25 episodes in total on like deep dives on different topics in world building. So definitely check that out. It should be linked below. Check that out. And yeah, I hope y'all had fun.
I did. It was great.
I am also willing to do this kind of like a full-on clinic like we did for Laura today. So if you have specific world building problems and you'd like to actually be on this side of the camera and actually be on the show where we can talk and talk through them, I'm more than willing to do that too. We just need to make sure that it's scheduled and know that that's what's going to be happening, because I don't feel like making this a full-on chat, like throwing the link into the chat kind of thing, because I know my luck on the that's when the bot storm would hit. Like,
Yeah.
I know my luck. I will be streaming again tomorrow over on Twitch at a new time. I'm starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, and again going for about 2 hours, because 4-hour streams were eating my soul and I was having a hard time replenishing it, so shrinking them down. But hey, you're getting extra, so does anybody have anything else that they would like to say before we run off into the wild blue yonder?
Subscribe. Hit the like button.
All
Share.
those things.
Share with your friends.
Share.
I kind of want to
Ring
clip
the
that.
bell.
I kind of want to clip that out and just have that be my default ending now, that when I get done with a video, I just I'm done, and it just as you all subscribe, like, just use that like from now on everything. All right, all of these people should be linked below, and if they're not, I am a terrible human being.
I saw them, and
Every
myth weaving
possible
is linked.
So hopefully all that is done. Yeah. Have the fun, and I will see you next time. Bye.